All right, we're going to start. We'll see if anybody's there. But anyway, so this is the CNT 114 Periscope lecture, and we're doing this all remotely today. So we'll see who connects. And the plan for today was to go over the Server 2012 R2 Essentials, okay, and kind of go over the some basic stuff with the Server Essentials. So kind of starting off, the Server Essentials. We went over this briefly before, and the plan here was in class we're going to install this as a role on one of the machines we have. So one of the 2012 R2 boxes will end up installing this as a role. So it does come in, there's basically a standalone version. Okay, so with this, there's you can get a standalone, basically SKU of the Server Essentials. So you can it's literally like an entire product. So you can get Server Essentials, you can install it. When you install it from the get-go, it goes through the whole Server Essentials setup and functions as basically a SBS server. So this is kind of like the SBS server, and this is good for if you have whatever 5 to 25 users. It works out good. Maybe 50 users, you can bump it up, but it's kind of meant for a limited user base in terms of users and devices. And single server can be a domain controller, file server, print server, remote access server. So it's one server that's doing everything that kind of goes on in your network. So anyway, so that's basically the evolution of SBS. So the one that we're going to look at is going to be the server role. So the server role is a role, all right, in 2012 R2. So meaning that this is basically a server role. So we're going to add it the same functionality where we would add a server role. So hopefully you guys are hearing me on there. If you're not, I don't know. I don't have any feedback on the Periscope app in terms of you guys can see this and can feed it. But we'll go on. So the role is we're going to add the role on the virtual machine, and then you'll see kind of the functionality we're going to end up getting this. So this is what we'll end up basically for next week. We're going to install the role on our servers. And so then you kind of see some of the functionality you get when you end up installing the server role. So anyway, so the other thing that they want to go over was the features. So some of the feature set that you get from the basically when you install the role. So some of the biggest stuff that where people are using this is it puts several of these SBS functionalities that were kind of cool. They're very you only got them on this small business, and you can basically get all these functionalities when you up installing the role. So for instance, some of these stuff here is you can do server and client backup. So it's got this backup functionality that's built in. So that's kind of you can end up backing up your entire servers, your client machines with the backup functionality. You do need a lot of storage. If you have a lot of client machines that have data, you're going to need a lot of storage. So it does have there's a new dashboard. So there's this new dashboard that you end up configuring everything through. So the dashboard is kind of this front end to Server 2012 R2, similar to kind of Server Manager, but it's a different dashboard, and you can create users, you can create groups, you basically do everything through this dashboard. So we'll kind of look at this dashboard. Everything it has, it's kind of the big new stuff with this version versus previous versions of SBS is you can integrate the server and the Server Essentials with Microsoft Online Services. So stuff that you can integrate this with is, for instance, Office 365. So this has a pretty good integration with Office 365. It also has integration with SharePoint. So you can have a SharePoint installation in the cloud, integrate that. You can actually manage your users, your groups, your email from both, from basically the cloud and from the Server Essentials. So you can create a user in your Server Essentials, and what will happen is that user will then get bumped up to the cloud because there's a synchronization between Server Essentials and Office 365. So that part is pretty cool. So to do that, you got to get Office 365 set up. I mean, this product, if we end up doing more, this would be almost a month-long project. You could literally teach an entire class just on the Server Essential stuff. There's enough stuff that could cover an entire class in terms of hooking all of the email functionality with Office 365, everything else on there. Another big functionality is the remote access. So that's some other pretty cool stuff with regards to remote access. So it has a bunch of this anywhere access functionalities. It has a remote web access portal. So you get this portal for, it's called your remote web workspace. And this remote web workspace allows you to log on to this portal, and you can actually access email, files, documents. It's the portal in there. It's a little bit quirky in terms of getting access to data. You have to open up a file, and then it'll go and download it, and then you can access it. But it does give you access. I have people using this, and they kind of have universal access anywhere they have a machine. They log on to the portal, boom, they have access to their data. It also has VPN functionality, so you can use VPN. You can VPN in on your machine, and then you can basically have direct access to everything on the network through your VPN connection. And then there's also the remote RDP. So you get RDP access in terms of remote desktop access to one of your desktops. So that's kind of using RDP protocol. You can connect that, and that has essentially an RD gateway functionality. So this is, you're basically going through an RD gateway server, and from here you're connecting to your PC. And this is going through 3389, but really 3389 is a tunnel, so it has a tunnel via HTTPS. So this is 443. So you end up, it ends up going everything through 443. So that's what's kind of cool, is you don't have to open up all the firewall rules just to get access. It tunnels the RDP protocol through 443. You end up, which is pretty much open through there. Another functionality in terms of you can manage your mobile devices, and that's kind of in conjunction with Office 365. So you have the ability, let me maximize that. So you have the ability to manage your mobile devices and get access to mobile devices. You can do that. They've had this option in the versions of Exchange. This you get a little more functionality because you're using actually Office 365 in conjunction with Server Essentials. And there's a whole bunch of also reports, monitoring network traffic, network stuff, so that you can have customized an email to you on a regular basis. So if you end up using all of these built-in reports, they're useful. They're kind of cool. So it has a bunch of information with regards to network health and reports that you get on a daily basis. Similar to like Event Viewer, but kind of Event Viewer on steroids that you can get emailed to you on a daily basis. So this is kind of the overview of the features with regards to Server Essentials. And what I want to do was to jump through and do a base install on this server. This is actually a server from our classroom. I'm remoted into this one. Although I couldn't connect to my VM, so this is the actual classroom domain controller. So this is our NWTraders domain controller. So what I'll do in terms of let me make some I'll make recordings of this, and then we'll put them on the network anyway. So so this is in terms of the configuration, this is basically a role that we're going to install. So you're going to do that through Server Manager. So we'll open up Server Manager. We're going to add a role or feature. And when you install this, if you're installing the standalone version, it'll actually create your Active Directory, your DNS. It'll actually create all that kind of infrastructure in terms of your domain controller stuff. Here, I already have a domain controller, so I should be able to configure this saying, hey, I already have a domain controller, so it's not gonna install all the Active Directory functionality. But I'll add a role or feature, and then you see here now that the Server Essentials is going to be just a role. So the role that's in here is this Windows Server Essential Experience, and then it actually adds a whole bunch of features in here. So you see it added a whole bunch of other required functionality on here. So there's a boatload of stuff that this thing added actually. So we'll add all those features, and then next, and we'll go through the little wizard on here, and then we'll see what happens in terms of. So it's kind of telling you here that it is. This is kind of for single domain environments. So if you do have multiple domains, like we do in the Monday night, then it can only support a single domain. So I don't know if it'll error out or if it just only supports the domain that it ends up installing, or if it just errors out and says, hey, you can't install it because it knows your root forest has multiple domains. But anyway, so we'll go through this install. It happens here. Just giving some more information with regards to kind of the web server stuff installing. So we'll click through this. These are all of the feature sets in terms of stuff that it's doing. This is specifically with IIS. So you can see it's installing the web server, a whole bunch of features with IIS. And normally I wouldn't, this is on my domain controller. I wouldn't really recommend in a bigger environment, obviously. Put this on another box here. This is the only one I can connect to, so we're going to put it on here. And then next. And then this thing will restart it if we need to. We'll see if it needs a restart. I'll see. This kind of gives you an overview of everything it ends up installing. So it installs quite a bit of stuff on here. There's a whole bunch of stuff it ends up installing, and then we'll basically install this, and we'll see what happens here. So I don't know if it needs a reboot. If you end up installing this as the standalone where it needs the domain controller, I know it requires a reboot. Then here. We'll see in terms of if it needs a reboot on here. So this will chug away. I don't think it's gonna conflict with stuff I have installed on my domain controller, but it wouldn't surprise me if it does have some issue. But we'll see what it does. And then when this finishes, we're gonna end up. The main thing we're gonna get out of this is the dashboard. So we'll end up getting this new dashboard, and you can kind of think of it analogous to Server Manager, but it's really the evolution of the SBS, which is the small business dashboard, of what's it evolved from. Because this product again it has a big long history from literally the NT days as back office server, and then came from Windows 2000 small business server, and then Server 2003 SBS, and then 2008 SBS, and then there was the latest is SBS 2011, and that has Server 2008 R2 plus Exchange 2010, and and that product. And the biggest thing that the big hoo-ha with Server Essentials and the big controversy kind of in the SBS world was that they ended up removing the email functionality, and they yanked it out of SBS, and this new product now called Server Essentials, and they put the email functionality in Office 365. So that was one of the biggest changes, and there was a lot of controversy when they first ended up, when this came out, when this news came out, because there was talk that there was going to be, a SBS 2013 that was going to have Server 2012 and Exchange 2013, and I know that was in development. But that never happened. They basically axed that product that had the the small business server with email functionality that had the Exchange server built into it, and yanked it out. And now you basically get a domain controller, a file and print server. You get this cool remote access portal to connect to. You get some very cool remote access functionality. And then now with the integration with the online services, you then can get email. And to get email, you have to then subscribe to an Office 365 account, and you're paying a monthly fee per user. So whereas previously you would end up just how many licenses, if you got whatever, 25 license server, then you can install. You didn't pay extra for adding more users on here. You basically were licensed to. And so now with the email functionality in Office 365, you end up paying a monthly subscription to use that email. And that's anywhere from the lowest price is kind of if you're just using email, sometimes you can get some deals for $4 per user per month, up to you name it, man, up to like $20, depending upon if you're getting all the software and all these features. It can get fairly expensive on a user. And then if you're getting archive functionality, the price just kind of goes up. But you can get along with $4 to $6 with this account. And then you get some other functionality too when you get the Office 365, just from having an Office 365. So they've kind of had the best of both worlds in terms of your on-prem server doing your file and print access, your remote access, and then they're leaving this cloud-based services for email and for SharePoint as well. And this is, I don't know, I'd say this product is getting more popular in terms of people that are moving away from Office or running Exchange on their local box and moving Exchange to the cloud. Then people really like it, this product. I'd say it's a die-hard admins that really like to have local control of their email and have their own Exchange server running locally. They were the ones that put up a big fight for this, and were kind of like, why? What happened to the Exchange? And but this is kind of how everything is headed in the market. So more and more and more, and every year that goes by now, more and more stuff is going to get put in the cloud. So I'm sure the next, we'll have to see what's in the 2016 version of the Server Essentials as well. So we'll check that in class. We didn't look at that with the server features, but I'm sure, yes, everything else, they just get tighter and tighter integration with the cloud-based stuff. And that's kind of one of the themes with the Server 2016, is that they're adding more and more and more of these cloud-based features and really integrating the cloud-based stuff. And that's kind of where the market's headed anyway. So one thing we haven't covered in class is the Office 365 stuff. So that would be good to at least cover as a lecture, so you guys can get some view into all the Office 365. All right, so this guy finished. I don't think it required a reboot, so let's see if we can close it. And then now we've got another warning here, so we can go there and look and say, hey, what happened here? So now I've got this configuration of Windows Server Essentials. So this is kind of the whole thing, you know, this server manager, when you install a role, it pops up, and now you've got this post deployment configuration. So we can go there and click on this post deployment configuration, and now it's going to actually start doing the first thing it did was it installed all the bits and all these features, and now this is kind of where then it's going to run. And so now it should find out that I have a domain running, and the end domain here is NW Traders, and it basically should figure that out. And so it's telling you that, hey, the server has been set up to be a domain controller. Okay, so that's cool. So click configure to configure the this server to be, you know, Server Essentials on the domain controller. And then it's just telling you that, you know, hey, your computer name, in general, you know, you don't want to change your computer name anyways after you do a domain controller. But that's fine. So it's cool. So if it didn't find, you know, if I was a standalone server and I didn't have a domain controller, it would have prompted a different pathway and would have said, hey, you don't have a domain controller, and then it would have went through a completely different pathway with regards to installing that. But we'll configure here. So we're going to configure the server here. And so what's going to happen now is this is going to essentially integrate into our existing Active Directory, okay, the server on there. And this can take a while to run. As you've seen here, this can take up to 30 minutes to actually run all this stuff. And this server here is on this isn't the SSD drive, the super fast drive. So we'll see what's going to happen here. I mean, while this runs, I'm gonna go over some more stuff, but with regards to the dashboard. But you know, this thing will stuff that you can do when this finishes. You know, we can manage user accounts with the dashboard, and then what it does is it just kind of plugs in, and this dashboard basically creates all of these PowerShell commands similar to Server Manager, and then it actually just runs it's like a front end. So this is basically this dashboard's this front end GUI to the functionality that the Server Essentials ends up giving you. But I think this is gonna run a little quicker. So this is already 45-50% done. So I think it'll end up actually being a lot quicker here. So I mean, it would be cool too. We could actually here we do have, if we get an Office 365 account, we could actually get full functioning email running on here. And this, I'll be honest, would be a really good lab for you guys to do. So again, if we kind of put this over here, is that and I'll mention this again in class, but a you know, really good, you know, real life, so real life, if I can spell here, a real life lab would be getting this fully working in terms of doing the server, because you can do this at home. You can do the Server Essential setup, okay, and get the Server Essential set up on on one server, right, and have a domain, and then get the Office 365 set up and working. Because in this scenario, you don't need to have static IPs. So you can basically get almost all this stuff working. So here, I don't think, you know, you're not gonna need a static IP, you know, for your home network to get the email functionality working. You know, for remote access and other stuff you do, but I think you can actually get away with without having a static IP on this. But you can get, what I'm trying to get at is you can get all the email stuff working, and you can get this configuration stuff loaded, and then you're gonna get exposed to the Office 365 setup and functionality. And there is a trial version, just so you know. So the Office 365, it has a trial, this trial version. So there is a trial version you can get for it's like 30 or 90 days. I mean, you can extend this thing pretty without even giving your credit card. So you can basically set it all up. You don't give anything, and I think you get like 30 or 60 days, and you can extend it for another 30 days or so. So it is cool. So that this would be a really good lab that you guys could set up at home. I mean, you guys have the software that you can download from DreamSpark. You just need a machine. You get that working, get it connected to the internet, and then you can go on and set up the Office 365 trial version. And that actually is really, really quick to actually do once you get the hang of it. So you can, I mean, it's like you can set up entire email domain, everything in 20 minutes. I mean, no problem. So anyways, I might cover that in class. It'd be fun to do an entire Server Essentials setup, and then actually hook it up to email, and then start routing email, getting your mobile phone connected to it. So that actually would be kind of cool. All right, so let's see if this where our install. So it's still checking. We're almost there. We're at 90%. So I think this will finish in terms of here in the next like 5 minutes, and then when it finishes, the goal here is I'm just going to launch the basically the dashboard, and we'll go over the dashboard a little bit. And then that's kind of it. And the goal here is so anyways, you guys get exposed to the Server Essentials. We'll end up doing this as a full-blown lab, next week in terms of you guys doing it on the machines, and just figure if we're going to end up installing it on the domain controller, or I think it's better to build another box specifically for the Server Essentials. Then you have your domain controller, and then you have your Server Essentials, so it's a little bit more scalable. Cool. So this guy finished. So what should have happened here is that it should give me a still chugging something. It's finished, but I think it's still waiting to do some stuff. So I should get something that should say close or finish here. We'll see if it ended up creating a. Okay, it did. Okay, so cool. So it finished on our server. That's where you can register. This gives you through a whole nother wizard to go register with the Microsoft Online Services such as Office 365 or SharePoint. But now I should get an icon on here now for my dashboard, and I do. Okay, cool. So this is the dashboard for Server Essentials, and this is, I think the best way to think of this is like the evolution of the SBS console that they've had around for quite some time now. So this guy loads, and this is just another front end to the servers. And so you have this whole get it started guide. We've got users, devices, storage, applications. We've got setting up user accounts, setting up shared folders, setting up our backups. This is the set up the anywhere access. So each one of these things gets you through a little wizard. There's updates for this. So this is the setup on here. These are the services. Okay, so this is the services where you're going to integrate it with Azure Active Directory. You can integrate it with Office 365. We haven't really talked about Intune. So Intune is probably something new we haven't talked about, but you can also integrate with Intune. So Intune is Microsoft's cloud offering of their antivirus monitoring little agent that they put on the PC, and it's basically doing Windows updates and antivirus stuff that's in there. And then so here's Windows Azure backup. So this is actually something new, so it's kind of cool. So you can back stuff up to Azure. That's actually pretty cool. And then here you can also integrate with your Exchange server. So I think if you actually do have a local Exchange server, but this would have to be on a separate server, then you can integrate this similar to the previous products where you have your own Exchange servers. And I would say more and more, a majority of people are using Office 365 now, because if you just think about the cost now, if you only have 5-10 users, wow, you're going to spend a lot of money to get a whole new server, plus the software, plus the installation, all that stuff. You're paying, some bucks to do your on-prem server, whereas, wow, you can set that up with Office 365 in less than a half an hour, and there's no upfront cost. So that functionality, I'd say the majority of these guys are going over to Office 365. There's add-ins, so these are some of the add-ons. There's third-party add-ins as well. So anyway, so this is kind of this whole get it started guide. I wasn't planning on diving through all of this functionality. And then you can see these are the users that we have. So interestingly enough, I forgot. So this thing, it did install, and these are my other domains, just so you know. So it totally installed on a forest. A root forest that had multiple domains. So this is the domain controller that I've been running for like 2 years, and this actually has 5 other domains in it. But the functionality is only going to be functioning in the primary root domain of NWTraders. So this is you can go there and create a user account. This is like similar to Active Directory when you end up creating a user account. So it's just taking you through a different, interface to add that information. So it's the same thing whether it is creating it in Active Directory. Okay, it's just a different front end interface to create that. And then we have our devices. So here, if you end up having devices, computers, phones, you can go there and it'll find those. You can manage those. You can back them up. So this is where it's kind of cool in terms of being able to back up different devices and laptops and desktops that's in there. We've got our storage. So the storage information, this would be like your file server in terms of information. And this stuff is similar to the SBS world. So this is new, this client computer backups. Normally you would separate this off. I mean, you might need terabytes and terabytes of data for the client backup. You've got your company data, you've got your user folder redirection. This would be everybody's My Documents and their desktop stuff, and then there's just a user folder. So some of the stuff we talked about with regards to user folder information. Hard drives, those are just basically information about the actual physical box. So it's saying, hey, I've got my OS, my C drive, my D drive, and then you've got over here with applications. So if there's any third-party apps, you can go there and it'll have some other applications that you have installed. So anyway, so this is kind of the intro into this. We'll end up playing with this more basically next week, but the goal was to give you guys a overview of this, and so you guys can see it. So what I do is you guys can do a little research on Server Essentials with 2012 R2, and then we will end up playing around with more of this stuff next week. All right, so I hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving, good little holiday break, and we'll end up meeting back here next week. Okay, all right, thanks, bye-bye.